Welcome to this evening's program.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sam Smith. I'm the board president of Houston Audubon, and thank you very much for joining us this evening for this great program that I'm really looking forward to this evening. As just a course of business, if you're on with us on Zoom, please make sure you're muted so we don't get any surprise feedback or comments. Thank you for that. I just wanted to share a few thoughts about Houston Audubon with you today, and all I can say is we had a fantastic spring this year, and kudos to the staff and the volunteers who worked so hard at High Island this year, and the birds were just amazing. But the point I want to get across is Houston Audubon is more than just spring migration. We have something going on all year long. Just last weekend, we did my wife and I went on a walk with the YPAC as part of Migration Day, National Migration Day on White Oak Bayou in downtown Houston near U of H. And it was a great walk, 20 species, the wildflowers, and we ended up going to the mural, which we'll talk about later today. And it was just an amazing thing. It's just an example of some of the great things Houston Audubon has going on all year round. And one thing to keep on your radar screen, in September, the YPAC usually does a celebration on Bird Week in September, and they have some great programs coming up, and you really want to participate in those if you can. We also have field trip, owl prowls. Our Raptor Center is really busy right now with the brand new Houston Botanical Gardens next door. That's drawing a lot of people. You want to get out to visit the Raptor Center. And also we have opportunities for you to be a citizen science. If you're a birder, an average birder, any kind of birder, you're more than welcome to join different groups that do bird surveys throughout the year. And you don't have to be an expert birder, you just have to be a willing birder. And we'd love to have you become one of our citizen science. If you're a member of Houston Audubon, thank you. If you're not a member, we would hope you to consider becoming a member. Our staff is working very diligently right now to increase the value of our membership and offer things that come with being a member of Houston Audubon, besides benefiting birds and the ecology and the preservation of habitat that Houston Audubon works so very hard at. But all these things are available to you if you visit houstonaudubon.org. For all the details, and we'd love to have you be a member if you're not a member. And those members, again, I'd say thank you for being part of Houston Audubon. And with that, into that commercial, I'll turn it over to Richard Gibbons, our conservation director, to introduce our tonight's speaker.
Good morning. Oh, good afternoon, good evening. So I'm Richard Gibbons, Conservation Director for Houston Audubon. And it is my great pleasure to introduce Jane Kim. We were introduced via email, via a mutual friend at the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. She was stunning everyone at the Cornell Lab of O with this incredible mural. And I think someone from Houston might have had a look at it and had a great idea that, maybe Houston needed some of that. But Jane's work is lighting people up for nature. She's especially been doing a lot of work with monarch migratory butterflies, and I think she's got another one of those coming up. But it's just the thought and passion that goes into this is it is inspiring. And so I'm greatly honored that she has spent the time with us this evening. And without further ado, Jane, please tell us what you're up to and how your work is changing the world.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be with all of you again tonight. And I say again, because I just spent a long stint in Houston, but it is so wonderful to be with Houston people once again to talk about birds and to talk about public art. So give me 1 second as I share my screen so that you can all follow along. put this in. It's so neat that we can do this. I mean, I'm still sort of blown away. So anyway, I'm Jane Kim, and I am a co-founder of a studio called Inkdwell, and we explore the wonders of the natural world through art, visual art. And we do that, whether it's public art or straightforward scientific illustration or journalism, which is what my husband and business partner does. He is a correspondent for Outside Magazine, as well as other publications that also explore the wonders of the natural world. And together, we just want to tell stories about nature to get people reconnected to their own environment. And so I have a background in not only fine art. I went to the Rhode Island School of Design and have a BFA in printmaking, but I also got my degree in scientific illustration. And so that component of it, I think, is what makes us really unique, is that our focus really is around natural history and how to communicate that. So I just wanted to share some of my favorite images of why, for me, scientific illustration has been so moving and continues to be. But these were drawn during the first exploration to the Antarctic. And as you can imagine, bringing these renderings back home to wherever home was for them would have been so much more impactful than a mere description of what they saw or experienced out there in the Antarctic. And I myself really hope to go there one day to see these amazing emperor penguins one day in person. But another aha moment that I had, this is before I decided to go back to school for scientific illustration, was visiting the Page Museum at the La Brea Tar Pits in Los Angeles. And in the center of their museum are these long glass cases filled with articulated bird skeletons. But behind each of these skeletons is an incredible painting of that very bird in that same posture. And these are done by John Dawson. He resides in Hawaii. Just an incredible artist. And I couldn't peel myself away from these displays. And it was not only because of the expertise in these paintings and the technical skill that was moving to me, but it was what these paintings did to help the experience and connection to wanting to learn more or understanding more about these fossils that I might not be able to visualize, who was on the exterior of these incredible bones at a given point. So that additional depth and added narrative and storytelling that these paintings created gave me that sense of, wow, this is what I want to be doing. I'd love to help communicate nature and science and connect people to it in a variety of ways. So many years after that, this is in 2015 now, I was very lucky to have been the one selected to create this amazing piece for the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. It is in their visitor center. It's about 70 by 40 feet, and it depicts the evolution and diversity of birds on a world map. And one sort of poster child bird was selected to represent each family at the time in 2015, and as well as a parade of ancestors along their stairway. I'm going to go ahead and show you this incredible interactive that was created after the mural was completed. And it's basically like a Google Maps for this mural. And every single bird is life-size. So when that previous slide, you saw me standing next to, a 8.5-foot ostrich. Actually, there's a print of it. It's printed life-size right behind me right now. That same ostrich. So you can move around on this mural, and you can zoom in to really exacting detail. You can see every single one of my brush strokes. And I'm glad I didn't know that this was happening while I was painting. It probably would make me so much more nervous than I already was embarking on this project. But what I also love is this additional level of information that this interactive provides. So each bird is then hyperlinked. And you can find this by simply Googling Wall of Birds interactive, and or you can take down, you know, the URL that you see here on my screen. But you can read about the very specific species. You can say, this is my favorite bird. You can go down, as you may or may not know, the Cornell Lab of Ornithology also is the largest collector, has the largest collection of natural sounds through the Macaulay Library. And you can listen to many of the bird calls. This just happens to be one of my favorite bird calls of all time. You can also read about the family that it belongs to, as well as explore eBird data, which is what I ended up using to help me place all of these birds on the world map. So this was maybe one of Inkwell's earliest projects, and I think it will remain maybe one of the most important as well as defining projects for the studio, in that I think it is exactly that beautiful marriage of art and science and communication that I could hope that all of my works will have. So I hope that you all will enjoy taking a moment to explore this if you don't make it to Ithaca, as it is a remote place to get to, but you can enjoy this particular project from home. Let's go back to the slides. Okay. So I also just want to give you a quick overview of some other projects that are near and dear to my heart, relevant to birds. While it's not the only topic that Inkwell paints about or explores, it certainly is one of my very favorites. So this past year, I guess in 2020, early 2020, I had the privilege of being able to paint the new facilities of the Moore Lab of Zoology at Occidental College, as well as the Van Tuna Research Group, which is on this bottom level. And every wall we use as an opportunity to tell a vignette style story of a specific ecosystem. So here we have the urban ecosystem, we have chaparral, it moves into the ocean, and it connects, oh, here's some close-ups. Peregrine falcon, the lilac crown and the red crown parrots, a California scrub jay, a red-shouldered hawk, hooded oriole on a fan palm. You got a Nuttall's woodpecker, and here's the chaparral with the California gnatcatcher. And of course, being they have some of the most amazing collections, and James Maley, the collection manager, was so kind enough to let me actually bring the birds out while I was painting, which was a gift because I have never had that experience before, and I can't tell you what a treat it was to be able to utilize the specimen as I was painting. And then here it is from going from sky to sea. This is the Van Tuna Research Group level. And this is a bathymetry map of the Southern Bight, which is the area of focus around their research. And then, of course, the estuary scene here with the Ridgway's rail and the great blue heron. And then, of course, in my personal paintings and work, birds show up all the time. And this was back in 2016. I had an artist residency at the DeYoung Museum in Golden Gate Park. And a lot of the work that Inkwell does, in fact, all of it is often site specific. So the stories that I want to share are really tied to the environment that the work is being made in. And so Golden Gate Park is a completely man-made park of San Francisco. It's would have just been mostly scrub and sand dune ecosystem, and now it's a pretty lush lawn, sort of habitat. But there is that tension of, whether that's a positive or a negative, and what kind of impacts that has. So I wanted to explore that tension and make allegorical stories around the tensions in San Francisco as an urban place between native and non-native people, and the industries that have driven some of the native San Franciscans out. And when I got back, the tech boom there was just so strong that I could feel it quite dramatically. I had just spent 17 months painting on site at the Cornell Lab of O from 2014 until early 2016. So that it was wild to be able to see that change or that shift in culture just in that very short amount of time. And so this is called The Innovators, and it shows a pair of course, native ravens making a nest in a non-native eucalyptus, and woven in the nest are apple lightning cables. This piece was created for the Leake Woodson Art Museum in Wausau, Wisconsin. And for all of you bird lovers and art lovers, you may or may not know of an annual exhibit called Birds and Art. And it's a phenomenal, it's been running for 45 years. I think they just celebrated their 45th anniversary, which is astounding. And I had an artist residency at their museum, as well as participating, being selected. One of my works was selected in 2019. But this piece now lives at the museum as a permanent part of their permanent collection. And it's called RG Bird. And it explores the color blue or in the avian world, and the fact that blue doesn't exist as a pigment, and it actually only exists as a structural color. And so I wanted to create a painting about that. Here it is for scale. And this is me working on it at the museum. And this is maybe one of my most recent paintings, and it's called Seafood Medley. And it is a collection of seabirds in hunt as a way to talk about our disconnection between our food and how we've once gathered and hunted for it versus being able to go to a grocery store and purchasing a bag of frozen seafood medley, and how much of the tools, fishing tools that we have today are probably created from observation of birds hunting for the same things that we want to eat, like the oyster shucker's bill or the talons of an osprey. And so that project that Richard mentioned, the Migrating Mural, the Migrating Mural is a series of public art installations painted along migration corridors of wildlife that they share with people. And our current focus is the monarch butterfly. And this is our latest project in San Francisco, on 455 Hyde Street. And, I share this as an example of how our studio, it has a real focus on bringing art to the public eye and view in this fashion. So really creating monuments to wildlife and nature, which in my opinion, we don't have nearly enough of. So we'd love to see more of that being celebrated throughout the world. And so this is a 360 piece where we not only painted that one side, but it wrapped to the front as well as to the other side. And in the spirit of the Wall of Birds, I wanted to highlight the various families of butterflies that are here in San Francisco. So of course, here are the swallowtails, the brush-footed butterflies, the whites, the gossamer winged, and the skippers, with our gorgeous state flower, the California poppy. And on the interior, as you enter, it's an 11-story residential apartment building, and the residents get to enjoy a hand-painted wall covering that highlights all 34 species of butterflies that have been most recently observed here in San Francisco. And I used iNaturalist to help me collect all that data. And another focus for Inkdwell is really to partner, with conservation organizations and scientific organizations to help me understand better the subjects that I am hoping to communicate about. And then we use the same print to create a reproduced vinyl for the garage door. And here's a couple of details. This is the tortoiseshell butterfly, California sister, and a fiery skipper. And migration is an important theme in our work as well. One thing that I love about migration is that it's about a cycle, and constant change and movement, and that nature is not static, it's dynamic. I think I love the way that it connects a lot of different regions together. This one animal will do so in its motion. And so the Wall of Birds, we also have a book that Thayer and I wrote together, and we have several passages and excerpts that focus in on different elements of not only the artistry behind the Wall of Birds, but we have some passages that speak to natural history as well as cultural allegory. And so I just want to read to you one of the passages, because I think the coolest thing about North American birds is what makes them unique is migration. So this is in the chapter of North America, and I'm going to go ahead and read this to you. They flock to America year after year, the tired, the poor, and the huddled masses yearning to breathe free. They come by the hundreds, thousands, millions, billions, like countless weary travelers before them, drawn by the promise of a productive life. Filled with an appetite for hard work, they hope that their offspring will thrive in a land of opportunity. They cross the great seaways of the Pacific and Atlantic, past the glowing torch of Lady Liberty, whose bronze-cast sonnet, the new Colossus, welcomes the homeless tempest-tossed. They brave violent Caribbean storms in the harsh deserts of Mexico, many of them dying of exhaustion or by the will of those who would wish them harm. They are our country's original immigrants, the birds of North America. We celebrate some of the continent's most iconic birds as American, but many of them spend only a few months per year within our country's borders. Some 350 of the 650 species that breed here are long-distance migrators. They flee the fierce competition of their wintering grounds in Central and South America for the northern spring and its bounty of food and nesting grounds. They understood America as a drive-through long before it became a fast food nation. And so in the spirit of this passage, I was so excited to have the opportunity to create a public artwork for the city of Houston, thanks to the Houston Parks Board and partnership with the Buffalo Bayou Partnership, and with scientific expertise from Houston Audubon and Richard Gibbons. And of course, Houston, I was so overjoyed to be there in the time that I was, because I did get to experience just a little touch of the spring migration coming into play. I didn't see the peak of it, but I saw enough to be absolutely impressed. I cried when I stepped into the rookery at High Island, and I was so incredibly moved. But this mural is called Confluence, and it's about not only the confluence of the actual two bayous that this mural is located, which is White Oak and Buffalo Bayou, but it's about the confluence of all of these birds that come through Houston, as well as celebrating Houston as one of the most diverse cities in the United States. So it's really a confluence of so many things, as well as organizations and partnerships. It's really a quite moving piece. And in the center, behind the birds, is a sort of mirror image map of Buffalo Bayou. But in the center, we have 6 species, the black Burnian warbler, chestnut-sided warbler, magnolia warbler, red-breasted grosbeak, scarlet tanager, and the yellow warbler. And once again, thank you, Richard, for giving me such an immense species list to choose from. But what the story we really wanted to tell here in the center was the different plumage between spring and fall. And so it's the same 6 male species, but just depicted in their non-breeding plumage. I love the dramatic change of the scarlet and rose-breasted grosbeak, scarlet tanager and the rose-breasted grosbeak from spring to fall. It still blows my mind. And then on either side of the mural, they're flanked by the complete sort of seasonal story. So on the left-hand side, we have migratory breeders and the Mississippi kite, the yellow-crowned night heron, and a ruby-throated hummingbird. And then on the right-hand side, we have an American kestrel, the yellow-bellied sapsucker, and the cedar waxwing to represent winter species. And here I am for scale. There's a little close-ups. And I think that's that. That concludes my presentation of slides, but I'm very much looking forward to continuing the conversation with you all. So I think, Richard, I'm going to give it back to you.
Okay. And I am going to make an effort to share my screen, and host has disabled the participant screen sharing. So
hold on, you got it. You got it.
All right.
Sorry.
Coming back, it's coming.
It's coming. All right. So what I would like to do is just quickly before, and so here for everybody to set your expectations, I just want to contextualize this a little bit with, to give you a little bit more information about the birds of the Gulf, the Houston Gulf area. And then after that, we want to open it up and talk about birds, art, culture, life, whatever you want to talk about. We'll, we can solve all the problems tonight. Anyway, these were some of the birds of Confluence. I did want to start with just talking about our region. So, our little Gulf, Houston Gulf area there in the red triangle, we've got more than 400 species of birds in our Houston Gulf area. That is a very diverse area for birds. And the reason for that is because we kind of straddle the Central Flyway. A lot of birds are coming around and across the Gulf of Mexico. So circumgulf migrants, transgulf migrants. And of course, we have all these birds that come to winter here because it's nice and mild in the winter time. And then we've also got birds that are coming here from the tropics to breed. So each year, and so this is some radar ornithologists that have been working on this for decades. They're able to tell us, that's a pretty accurate number. Compared to what we knew, say, 10 years ago, about 250 million migratory birds are coming through our region. That's not Texas. Texas would be 1 billion is coming through Texas. But so, even in Texas, we get an outsized proportion of the birds that are passing through our region. It's just that kind of place. Here's an image to kind of drive home that point. This is from Living Bird in 2017, and it's showing, it's a heat map with, the highest importance for stopover. So, migratory birds, they're making these big flights. Sometimes these flights are, they're taking off from the Santa Marta Mountains, in the case of, say, like gray cheek thrush, and they're flying 2.5 days to get up to the Texas coast, straight, no stopping. That's like a straight flight. It's much more complicated than we used to think about when birds, they all go to the Yucatan Peninsula. and they all jump off, and 15 hours later, they show up on the, on the northern Gulf of Mexico. Well, it's way more complicated than that. And there are birds taking off from different points in Central America, points in South America, of course, in the Caribbean as well, and points in Mexico and the southern part of the Gulf as well. But all of that is, we are the landing zone, and the birds that land here, they're looking to get a lot of that salt off their feathers and refuel and get reoriented and rest before they take off to fill in the whole continent with migratory birds. And so you think IAH, International Airport Houston is busy. Our whole region is a place where people are on.
Hey, Richard, you're breaking up quite a bit.
Okay. I'll talk
Sorry.
slower. How's that?
Better?
Okay. This is just an example of all the habitats that are in our region: marine, beach, coastal marsh, prairies, forest. It's the diversity of habitat that allows us to have that diversity of species that stop over here. So Jane touched on this. Am I still breaking up pretty bad? Or is it better?
No, it's better, yes.
Okay. So the groups that are represented in the mural Confluence, wintering migratory birds. And so things that in the non-breeding season, these are terminal migrants. They're coming here to spend the winter. And there's 300 species that are here in the wintertime. Now that includes resident species too, but a lot of them are birds that are only here in the winter. Things like kestrel, the yellow-bellied sapsucker, cedar waxwing. These are species that are escaping the cold up north, but they don't want to travel too far. They want to go just far enough where it's warm and they can still find the prey that they need, but be close enough to take off and be first back to their territory when the time comes. The pass-through birds, our migratory birds, so many birds, 360 species in spring and fall are that not all of those are migratory birds. That includes our residents as well. But major stopover habitat for so many long journeys. And so, yellow warbler, scarlet tanager, rose-breasted grosbeak, chestnut-sided, and the black Burnian warbler there. And then our breeding birds. These are birds that are coming specifically here. This is their terminal destination. They're coming here, they're coming home to breed and to raise a family in these longer days, far fewer predators than the predator-rich tropics. And they're coming to do their thing, and then they'll return. Maybe a different route for some species, but this is another group of birds for our region. And it's nice to think about how the seasons are changing. And there is never a day in Houston, in our region, when birds are not migrating through. Every single day, birds are on the move. Every day you go out, there are birds that are passing through, that are showing up to set up a winter territory or a breeding territory, or they're just stopping off for a few days, or you might just see them pass through in the sky. So it's a really dynamic phenomenon to try to key into. And so with this crazy diversity that we have in our region, we have a great responsibility with this gift that we have of our geography. And so, that's why Houston Audubon and so many of our partners, and why Houston, has agreed to be a bird city and work on some of these issues. And we work so hard to get more people to start trying to reduce the threats in our region, and things like habitat loss. Of course, that's the biggest. Keep your cats inside. Try to, help get fewer chemicals and things that are really, really bad for wildlife, like neonicotinoids and other things that, they're good alternatives if we would just, commit to it and find, kinder ways. And of course, collisions are a big one. And so we've had a little bit of success with lights out, not only in Houston, but in Galveston as well, and Surfside. So, there is some hope out there. And I know that the work that Jane and her team have done are helping, more Houstonians appreciate what we have here so that they can start helping us with these actions. So that's a little long, sorry. But I think what we want to do now is take some questions from the chat. And Mary Ann, do you want to help us sort through that and pick them? I'll also kind of look in there, but
Yes, I will. I'm
going to pull up the chat too.
And let us know if you've seen or gone down to the mural, or if you need help in locating where the mural is at. Oh, there we go. Leanne is asking where exactly is the mural. So what's the quick version of how to get there and where to park and I know Sam, you went to see it, or Jane, what's your thought?
So, yeah, I mean, it's right below UHD on Travis, and Commerce is that's the other side of the bayou. And there isn't great parking, but of course, if you're, walking on the bayou system, it's like at Allen's Landing. Those are the kind of the main markers that that I am coming up with now, not being from Houston, my recollection, if that's helpful.
And I would think that one of the partners, either Parks Board or the
Buffalo Bayou Partnership.
Buffalo Bayou Partnership probably has more exact directions on their website. Richard, do you know if we have something on ours?
I don't, but I'll say this. I loved that interactive piece that you did for the Wall of Birds. So I was like, okay, we need to do that. We need to somehow take a photo and make an interactive, web little microsite with all the information about the species.
So I mean, that would love. I would love nothing more.
Okay. So I don't know that we do yet. I mean, I know we have something on our website, and if you were to search our website, it will give you directions on how to get there.
Yeah, I think actually like 200-201 Girard, that's the campus address for the university building right there. So that'll at least get you to where the wall is. However, you can't necessarily park there. You should just park on the street and then walk down to the bike path from there.
So we have a couple more questions. One to you, Jane, is about the large mural on the side of the building. They're asking, they say, I don't think it was hand painted like the other ones.
Oh, no, it sure was. It sure was. We were on those long, swing stages, like window washing swing stages that were automated, like an elevator that we have to go up and down. And we basically transferred the whole imagery using a very old technique of a grid method. So we actually drew a grid on the wall and had the image printed small, and we just freehand drew. And I say we because for that project I did have quite a large team, as it was a lot of surface area to cover. And then it was kind of a similar kind of paint by number style system, in that all the colors were pre-mixed and that we could just fill in the spaces with large painter's brushes.
Very cool. And there was a question from Facebook about seeing songbirds as opposed to water birds. In particular, they're asking about Brazos Bend. And I'll say I was at a recreat today, and it can be very easy and overwhelming to focus on all the water birds, but you really have to stop and listen and wait and watch. And all of a sudden, you know, the songbirds will start, you'll start seeing them, because it's I think it's natural or human nature to kind of be drawn to the bigger birds that are very easy. They're walking in the water. And so sometimes, I mean, Brazos Bend is an incredible park for songbirds year round. And it's just a matter of looking differently. Richard, what would you say? You know, listening.
I was thinking the exact same thing. And I was in this morning, you know, we were in forest habitat, which Brazos Bend is forest if it's not the open water there, you know, in the marsh, in the lakes. But it was 30 minutes before we saw an actual bird. But, you know, we had a cacophony of, you know, 20 species that were, you know, just going to town. But we, you know, your bird listening is, you know, way more productive sometimes in a very thick environment. And so I know when I go to Brazos Bend, you know, right now you're hearing great crested flycatcher, prothonotary warblers are there. You know, common yellowthroats might still be singing. You know, marsh wrens. You know, they're around, but you know they don't really want to be seen sometimes because you know it's nesting season, so they may be a little bit more furtive. But yeah, I would just maybe listen more.
And I want to add for the mural specifically, the songbirds were chosen because we really wanted to show the contrast of plumage between spring and summer. And a lot of the songbirds have the more dramatic changes in their breeding plumages. And so part of that was to kind of show that continual narrative that, you know, we get to see a very particular part of their life cycle, and that, you know, we don't see what they look like in their wintering plumage, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And it's kind of fun to become more familiar with what they might look like in another time of year when they're not in Houston.
Well, and I think, Jane, it brings to point that, you know, we get excited about big birds, but when people realize that these amazing, colorful birds are in our parks and along our waterways and bayous and in our backyards right here in Houston, if you just take the time and stop and look, I mean, your paintings are so vivid, and that's the birds. I mean, people get blown away when they experience spring migration on the upper Texas coast, and we need to all be great Houstonians and realize what a treasure, what a special ecosystem we live in. And I think your mural really brings that to light for sure.
Thank you. You know, it's so funny because I do try to exemplify it, of course, like the general or the average bird, but I was absolutely stopped in my tracks on my first visit to High Island and the sanctuary there, because it was my first time seeing a northern parula in person, and it was at like the best self of breeding plumage, and I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, like the pictures don't even do it justice when you get to see them in their, you know, their tuxedos. It's like, it's wild. It's so cool.
We are lucky, and I have friends and colleagues in Latin America, and they never get to see them, some of these birds in their breeding plumage.
Yeah.
And so sometimes they'll come maybe to a meeting or to visit, you know, the museum or something, and then, you know, they want to go out and see their birds in breeding plumage. They're like, oh my gosh, you know, it's you know, the change is dramatic.
Yeah.
So we have some other. Go ahead. A couple other questions. I also was thinking about this. How will Confluence be protected from the ubiquitous graffiti artists in Houston?
That's a great question.
And the other one was, how do you determine the type of paint you use when considering the color versus the life of the painting?
Both amazing questions, and they tie into one another. I definitely always use exterior latex house paints as well as acrylics, simply because these materials are meant to be on these environments. Confluence got an even further treatment of like 4 coats of waterproofing sealer. So that certainly will help if it did get tagged, and we're, you know, crossing our fingers and knocking on wood that it won't, and that the respect will be there, and we won't see that happen. But it can get scrubbed off because of the protective coating. What nature does to it, because I know that that wall is going to be underwater a couple of times a year, and that is beyond our control. And so we all understand that as an exterior public artwork, these works do have a life of their own, and we certainly understand that wear and tear.
Awesome. And Laura Bacon gave us.
Hi, Laura.
She's here, great supporter. And she says, park at U of H downtown in the surface parking on Girard, which is very easy to find, next to White Oak Bayou, and walk the White Oak Greenway to the intersection of White Oak and Buffalo. Yeah, so that's what I would suggest, is going to the surface parking at U of H downtown on Girard, and it's right there around the corner. Let's see.
Ooh, hello, puppy.
That was Mel. Let's see. Bill Bass is asking, which artist inspired you?
For Confluence or just in general? In general,
Go ahead.
man, that's a very long list. You know, when I was a student in printmaking, I was absolutely enamored with Albrecht Dürer, and still am to this day. Not only did he revolutionize woodblock printing and intaglio printing, but I think some of his renderings of observation are some of the most spectacular today. Of course, I do really love Leonardo da Vinci's work just because of his scientific mind, and again, understanding the human body in a way and exploring the human body in a way that no one ever had before. I really love the work of James Turrell, who is a contemporary installation artist, and I love his work so much because of the way that he provides experiences to be in a space and physically and see something different, whether it's color or shape or sound. So I absolutely enjoy his works. Yeah, I mean, the list goes on, and I have so many incredible friends who are artists whose work I greatly admire. Isabella Kirkland, Tiffany Bozick, Ash Verlito. I mean, these are all amazing female artists who spend their time and energy to create and celebrate works around nature, and our understanding and connection to it. So yeah, that list is pretty long for a variety of different reasons.
Do you have a species that's your favorite to paint, bird or otherwise, and why?
I think that I feel like I have more confidence in birds just because I've done them so many times and have worked directly with experts to help guide me and understand the subject more deeply than some of the others. But honestly, I love painting everything and anything under the sun. And whether it's microorganisms to macro sort of concepts, all of it is fascinating to me, as it's my way of connecting to the world too. So really, I can't narrow it down.
That's very cool. And someone asked if you teach or you take apprentices.
I have taught scientific illustration at my alma mater, at CSUMB, California State University, Monterey Bay, which is where the science illustration program runs out of. And I, for 3 years, was their zoological illustration instructor. I just stopped, but of course, I absolutely do have interns here at the studio, and have various artists who have come and gone at Inkwell. So I very much enjoy connecting with other aspiring artists.
That's wonderful. Anna, do we have any other questions from Facebook?
Let me check. Just one about feeding birds and there being mixed opinions about bird feeding. I'll let Richard take this.
Yes, please take this one.
Nice. Thanks, Anna. So Anna, is the question about whether we should continue, is this about the, the finch invasion, or is it
I
just?
don't think it's specifically about the finch invasion. It says just, do you support bird feeding in general?
Yes. And I'll say I don't think I've ever answered this question, but I'll tell you what I think. I think subsidizing, birds, especially migratory native birds or even resident birds, I think it's a great thing. First of all, you get to learn about them, your family gets to learn about them, and you are most likely helping more birds get through the next year, and especially in the winter time, which is the most critical time when there is the highest mortality. And so, bird feeders really kick it into high gear when there are storms and things like that. Our pages were really busy with trying to help people. We had people were keeping their hummingbird feeders with all these winter hummingbirds on the Gulf Coast. And, they were like changing their sugar water out and keeping them heated, and getting their suet blocks out there. So I think it's a great thing. I think there's if you have problems, like if you're only feeding 300 house sparrows or European starlings, love them, but you may want to take them down for a while if that's all you're doing, and they're all going to displace a bunch of native cavity nesters.
And there's certain kinds of feed, the higher quality is going to deter. A lot of the cheaper mixes are made in the Midwest and they don't support, our local population. So getting a better quality seed can really make a difference and deter the unwanted for sure.
Yeah.
We also always encourage planting native plants alongside with your feeding.
That's the best bird feeder is your yard. And right now, that's right. I don't even have a bird feeder in my yard, but I do have a lot of native plants. And right now, my ruby-throated hummingbird is really enjoying my my Gulf verbena, my Gulf vervain, and I'm waiting for some of these others to come up, and it's going to be great. But
Very cool.
Yeah, it's you can supplement, but yes. Plant more natives. Natives will support more insects, and more insects will support more insectivores, and you will love it. Get some coral honeysuckle, get some crossvine.
Yeah.
Support more.
Well, Matt Nielsen from the Houston Parks Board said that obviously the Houston Parks Board, thanks Matt for being online, maintains that stretch where Confluence is located. Thus, if it is tagged or damaged, they're able to address it quickly. And for flood resilience, there is a protective layer which allows for easier cleaning. And Beth for Jane asked, do you sell any of your work? Your work is so impressive.
Oh, thank you, Beth. I am represented by a gallery in California in Burlingame. It's called Andra Norris Gallery, ANDRA. She has many of my fine art paintings. However, maybe in the summer or so, and we will of course announce this through our social feeds on both Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, we will be offering prints that you'll be able to purchase off of our website sometime this year.
Very cool. And Laura, hi Laura. Laura Mills is asking, she's curious about your background in scientific illustration and how did it differ from your previous art education? How do you think illustration fits into modern scientific contexts? Since I feel like photography is much more common medium in the science world. Great question.
This is a great question. The background in science illustration was quite different than a fine art background in that it's much more technique and I would say utility oriented in how you tell a story visually and the processes that are often used in scientific illustration, and learning how to ask the right questions about learning about your subject, and it's not just based on what you see visually. So it was wonderful to get that training. As far as scientific illustration's role, I do think it is true that photography has allowed us to capture, and video for that matter, to capture moments and processes in nature that we never have been able to do before. But the role of illustrating is to be able to distill certain aspects and clean up a concept that a photograph wouldn't be able to do. One example that I like to use is, say, a photograph of a surgical procedure. And, you know, when a lay person is looking at it, or even when doctors are looking at it, that all that blood, gore, tendons that are in a photo, an illustrator could then really clean up and call out the specific information that is necessary, and or communicate things in the past, like prehistoric reconstructions, and or telling narratives that wouldn't necessarily be able to be communicated in a photograph. So I think that in tandem, it's even stronger, our ability to communicate about what we know about the world today. And there's so much that we're continuing to learn. So I think we all have a role in that, in these different mediums.
That's great. A great question.
Yeah.
Anna, anything else from Facebook?
I was muted. No, nothing else on Facebook. So I think that's it. Yeah, we're covered on Facebook.
All right.
Well, go ahead,
Mary,
Richard.
you wanna take us home?
Well, thank you, everybody. Oh, my cuckoo clocks are going off. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. I finished my watercolor.
Yay! Oh, it's so beautiful.
So inspiring, and I can't wait to get down and see the installation and enjoy it. And I think, you know, Houstonians will rally and make sure it stays safe for all to enjoy for a long, long time. It's just tremendous. And one of these days I'll get up to Ithaca to see the Wall of Birds, which I've marveled at for so long now. So thank you, Jane, for taking your time. Thank you for joining us. Jess, we are so appreciative of your talents and bringing them right down here to the Bayou City. So thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks to all the partners, Houston Parks Board and Buffalo Bayou Partnership, and Houston and Richard for your guidance. And we can't wait for the next big one. So keep it.
And continue to enjoy those birds that are coming through right now. You guys are all so lucky. I will have to say, you know, here in California, we do get some spectacular hummingbirds. So I do have that, but wow, those songbirds, just spectacular. Amazing.
We'll come anytime.
Yeah, done.
All right, well, good night, everybody. Thanks, Richard. Thanks, Anna. Thanks, Sam. And especially thank you, Jane. Everyone have a good evening and get out there and go birding.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.